Welcome, welcome everyone. I am so excited to have my dear friend and the brilliant Dr. Shefali here to talk about your new book, The Parenting Map. So before we even go any further, will you please hold it up? Do you have it right there?
Yeah.
Let's see it. It's so beautiful, everyone. It's so beautiful. I'm so happy to be part of getting it out into the world. So thank you so much for being here. I know that everyone who knows me knows you because I recommend your books and your online courses to every client, student, friend that I meet. But on the offhand chance that some of you are just getting to know Dr. Shefali, I want to give you a proper introduction. So, Dr. Shefali received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Columbia, and you specialize in the integration of Western psychology and Eastern philosophy. This is one of the things I just learned so much from you and love the best about you. And you are endorsed by Oprah as the best parenting expert she's ever seen. And you've written so many books, from The Conscious Parent. If you look at mine, every page, you clearly can see that I've read your books many times over and over again. So you're a New York Times bestseller, The Conscious Parent, The Radical Awakening, The Awakened Family, Out of Control, and now The Parenting Map. So I'm so happy to have you here and so happy that you're birthing this book.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. I'm honored. Yeah, this book is really one that culminates all my other books into this one succinct, very practical map, step by step. I have 20 steps in this book, and I laid it out like a journey. So it's in three stages. And the first stage is all about how we all need to start every journey. And we start every journey first with a change in our mindset. It's like we start a new health kick. We can take away the candy and we can throw away all the sugar in our house, but it won't be sustainable till we change our mindset. So the first stage is all about changing mindset. The second stage is about breaking down our dysfunctional patterns from childhood. That's where I give years of therapy worth of investment right there in those pages. If people do them, they will truly be ahead of their own healing. And stage three is all about building conscious connection. We all want conscious connections with our children, but we don't get there because we don't do the first two stages. So we have to clean up our inner crap before we can connect with our children. And every step, 20 of them, are followed with practical exercises, lots of illustrations, lots of stories, my own stories, client stories, because we learn best through metaphor, through symbols, through storytelling. And it's a really easy to read book, I think. I've broken down very esoteric concepts into basic language, like how I talk is how I've written this book. So I really think this book is going to reach every lay person out there who wants to aspire toward conscious parenting.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I particularly love the way that you do lay it out in three big stages. I particularly love that. And the last stage that you're talking about, connection. What I love is because as we parents or on any journey, right, we want to get to the end first. And inevitably, what I found anyway, in so many of the other books I've read, and what I think is so brilliant about this book, is that we want to get to the end and then we end up recycling because very few people have really laid out the first two stages. And you really do that beautifully as a map, as a literally connecting the dots. And I think that what that will do, what it's done for me in reading it is I will not recycle anymore because I have these first two foundational stages in place. So anything that you want to share around that and how that came to you or why you chose to do it that way, how it's going to be helpful.
Well, I think you and I work with people in real time. And when you work with people, you realize that you cannot bypass essential steps of the growth process. You have to go through the stages of evolution. It's like the hero's journey. he cannot get to redemption and transformation until he goes through the abyss of deconstruction, destruction, detachment, and then you come out on the other end. So as much as we would like to bypass and just get to the pinnacle and the zenith of this utopia, sorry, life doesn't work like that. Our growth needs to go through very elemental stages and foundational principles so that when you reach the other end, you can integrate it. It's like when you get famous too young, you're going to collapse because fame, too much worldwide fame, and we see it with young celebrities, is toxic. The brain cannot integrate. So we need things to happen at the right time. And as much as people want to rush to the end, they're going to have to go through these steps. But the first two steps, I think, are profound. They're written in an entertaining way. I give so many lovely examples where people can resonate with them. The other day, you and I were together and we met somebody and she said, oh my God, the stories reminded me of me, right? So these stories are written with the intention for you to find your resonance. So you can see that you're not the only crazy person out there. You know, parenting is hands down the most difficult job in the world. And we have so much shame and guilt around our parenting that's why we don't talk about it. We're all pretending as if we have the perfect kid and we have the perfect family life. But you and I know, working behind the scenes with people, that this is not the case. So we need to, at least in terms of parenting, come out of the closet and share that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm winging it. I'm clueless. And on a good day, I just get lucky, right? And all the other days, I'm literally just feeling my way in the dark. And if we can talk like that, then we can ask for help. Then we can, get the education that we require. So this book is that manual that you can come back to and keep reinforcing your most ideal aspiration, which is to be a conscious parent.
Yeah, and be connected to our kids. And we know that's what they want from us. And I think what you're saying is so important, because we end up putting on these masks and these smiles and, this Instagram, like all is well. Meanwhile, behind the door, like we're falling apart, because I think we aren't taught in culture how to really be with the frustration, be with the overwhelm and the disconnect and all the messy feelings. And so those first two stages that you talk about in the book really take individuals. This is what I really want people to hear is you're not really being taught out in the world how to really be present with what is messy inside of you. And so to really get a step-by-step, this is how you do it, then you do this, then you'll get to your clarity, then you really lay it out. So I think that the information, and like you're saying, the way you disseminate the information just will make everyone feel like, oh my gosh, I'm really not alone, and I can do this. I can sit with the messy. I can sit with my frustrations, and then I can start conversations with other people about what's really going on.
Absolutely. We're so afraid to be imperfect because we've been told that we should just know how to parent. It should just be instinctive. It should be something that comes natural to us. But I always say that a conscious parent isn't born. A conscious parent isn't just who you are. It's who you have to become. Yeah. So we are all starting out unconscious. And that's a relief, I hope, for some people to hear. I started out unconscious. You were unconscious. And we had to evolve and cultivate a level of consciousness. And that's what this book is. It's that path that you and I took to go from unconsciousness. And we all start with unconsciousness. So there's no blame, no shade, no guilt. We all have been absolutely unconscious. And then we awaken. So this process takes us all through the stages of our unconsciousness and offers remedies, offers reparation and redemption at every angle, at every corner. And it's really a practice. Conscious parenting is a practice. You have to do it every single day. And if you don't, your muscles will atrophy and you will then be recycling. So buying this book is like your go-to, especially if your children are still at home, to keep revisiting and doing the steps over and over. It's like 12 steps, right? You go to the meetings all the time, even though you've been to many. You keep going because you want to build that muscle and create that dedicated, devoted practice. Conscious parenting is the altar upon which we must devote ourselves. And who will benefit? Not just our children, but also ourselves.
Absolutely, because whether you actually are raising children right now, all of us obviously had parents. So all of us are here to continue to evolve and to heal our own childhood. So we are for sure the beneficiaries as well. And I think, for me, I would love to hear what you think about this. I mean, Radical Awakening was also very personal for you, but this book feels so personal, and you do disclose so many examples of your own relationship and journey as a mom. And I would think that that would make readers feel also so soothed. What you're saying, I am not the only one. All of us share as sisters and mothers and parents that we are all on a journey of imperfection and awakening. So, is there anything about your own journey? Like, I'm so curious. Um, I don't know if this will tie into like the 5 F's that you teach about in the book. Maybe you want to share a little bit. Did you see yourself in one of those F's? I know I see myself in a couple of them, and just curious about that.
Well, I think this book is really my offering out of all these decades of working with clients. And, I run a conscious parenting coaching institute where I train people in a lot of the things that I've written here. And this is the way I do therapy with my clients. So this is an inroad to your own therapy, really. It's a therapeutic book. It's a self-help book. It's a self-evolving book. And in stage 2, I talk about how to break down your patterns. And I offered a very simple but profound way to identify what kind of parent you're going to be or you are. And it's the 5 F's. And the first one is the fighter parent that is predicated on the emotion of anger, the fixer parent that's predicated on the emotion of anxiety, the feigner parent that is predicated on the attention-seeking psychology, the freezer who is an avoider, and the fleer who's an abandoner. So they all are A's. So all the A's and the F's. And you can identify who you are. And then I offer a way to disrupt that pattern. So I'm a fixer. I'm sure you're a fixer. What do you think you are?
100% fixer.
Right. So good girls, typically super achieving perfectionists, are fixers, but a lot of people are freezers too. You would be surprised. And of course, the prototypical yeller and the fighter. And then many are the stage mom, the pageant moms, the sports dad, the very traditional parent who likes to be seen. That's the feigner, the one who needs attention, who needs to belong, who cares about appearances so much that they forsake individual authenticity. So once you identify your patterns, you also begin to see who your parents were, who your spouse is, and then you begin to notice these patterns in your children. Like even they begin to have ego patterns. So the benefit of this is to, with compassion, acknowledge your pattern, but then begin to see it showing up, and then to begin to disrupt the cycle. So I talk about identifying your imposter ego, that's these patterns, and then understanding your inner child. And I talk about that. And then about the activation of your insightful self, which is the third eye, which is an acronym or a symbol of your adult self. And then I give this whole therapeutic process that you can go through to release yourself from these dysfunctional patterns and truly connect with your children. So stage 2 is like intense inner work. If you don't have money to go see a therapist or you don't have time to see a coach, this is it. You can just read this section and you will get so much out of it.
Yeah, I think that I really love the way that you break it down. It's very simple, not necessarily easy to do, but very simple. And how it really assists me, and I think it will assist everyone, is when you can identify yourself that way and you get to learn these different F's, then when you're in the middle of an interaction with your child or a spouse or a girlfriend, in any moment, you begin to see, oh, I'm the fixer. I'm the fixer in this moment with my spouse, with my girlfriend. The more I might notice it with my girlfriend, the easier it's going to be for me to then notice it with my child. And so, often in parenting, we talk about the pause, the holy grail of like pausing. And what I think is so profound about these F's is that when you are connecting in your brain wiring, oh, in this moment, I'm fixing. When you have that epiphany, it builds you into that pause that's so important. And it takes your focus then back to yourself. And like you're saying, then in the book, you teach how to work with each part. And so it's just a brilliant way to put the mirror back on yourself in a compassionate way. Oh, I'm fixing right now. And then you take yourself through those steps. So,
Yeah, it's all about self-understanding, not about self-loathing, not about self-blame. It's about illuminating your patterns, other people's patterns, and bringing that into consciousness, because that will relieve you from the burden that it is, that those patterns are operating whether you like it or not.
yeah.
So you have a choice to either be burdened by it without realizing that you are, or you have the choice to illuminate it into awareness so that then you can pick and choose what parts of the pattern you want to keep and what parts are dysfunctional and toxic for you. But regardless whether you want to see them or not, everyone has a pattern. And I've just encapsulated, I interviewed many people, talked to them about their patterns, and I kind of coalesced them into these groups. And each of them have subtypes that you can identify with. And I think it, without shaming yourself, allows you to go, like you said, spot your ego. And spotting it then allows you to have compassion for yourself for using that ego pattern, but also for your children and your partners, because they have to be subjected to your ego. But they have egos too. So you get to see what your kid's ego is, what your partner's ego is. So it's a profound section of the book. And then stage 3 is all about moving into conscious connection, into how do I validate, how do I empathize with my kid.
Yeah. And you talk a lot also about learning kids speak and learning their language. And there's so many gems and nuggets in that third stage where you really elaborate on how to really put this into practical action. So when I can learn to see and hear my son in a different way, and I can hear his speak and I can learn his speak, again, it's a bridge to connection that I didn't have before. So
Right.
so much in stage 3. Anything you want to
Yeah. So
elaborate?
one of the steps is to master kids psychology. And you had an epiphany where you didn't fully attune to your kid's psych, right? And that's why you were clashing. You thought he was a bull in a china shop. I said he was a super sensitive kid. So in that section, I've given different prototypes of different kids, different kinds of kids, the shy kid, the introvert, the dreamer, the exploder. And then it's a profound way to not typecast your kid, but to tap into what their authentic essence is. And if you have a shy kid, or you have an explosive kid, you have a hyperactive kid, I teach you in that section how to see those traits as superpowers. And I give parents a script for each one of those traits. And I can look for one and I can try to read one of them. But you had a big epiphany. So tell people about your
I,
epiphany.
I had a huge epiphany, and while you're looking for that, because it's very important, and I offer this because I was at the receiving end of his teachers. And so I
Yeah.
was hearing his teachers use the phrase, he's a bull in a china shop. And so I'm a people pleaser. I was a good girl. And I heard that feedback as, oh, that must be who he is, even though in the rest of our life we didn't experience him that way. But I heard it. And so I began literally seeing the child in front of me, not as he was, but through the filter of this good girl pleasing this teacher who's telling me these things. So I started seeing him as a bull in a china shop. And we were talking one day, and you didn't even know that part. You just instigated or proactively just said, yeah, Will is such a sensitive boy. And I'll always remember that. That was the filter. You were seeing him as he is. And I said, what? He's not sensitive. He's a bull. And that was a huge awakening for me, epiphany for me, because I began to then shed the layers that I was seeing him through and began to see who he truly is. And you are absolutely correct. That is probably his greatest superpower, his sensitivity. And that is probably my greatest superpower, one that I had pushed away at the time, right? So I would love for you to read, and
Right.
I would also love for it to hear, like, did you have any epiphanies that way of seeing your daughter and through this work? Did you just,
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason I do this work, or I began doing this work, is because Maya was so opposite to my fantasy of what she should be. I wanted this docile, obedient, meek little girl that I could maneuver, right? And then I got this firebrand, this really like tough kid who would like put me in my place. So I was just like, damn, who's this girl? And I didn't like that. I didn't want her to be like that until I realized that her nature has superpowers, and I'm full of, my own ego, and I need to surrender to who she is. So I really love this section of the book because I go through these different categories. So I have the anxious exploder. People listening can think about if their kid or themselves are like this, or when they were kids, the anxious exploder, the hyperactive explorer, the overdoer, overgiver, overpleaser, the dreamer recluse, the rebel nonconformist, the easy breezy happy-go-lucky. Okay, so those are the main people. So with Will, being this very, sensitive person, where would you put him? As the dreamer recluse, maybe? Where would you put him?
he was a combination definitely of a dreamer. He was very happy in his own world, and that was very challenging to teachers who needed him to be in their world. And a little bit of the hyperactive explorer. He's just out of the box and interested and curious, and again, was bumping up against what was needed in a classroom.
Right. So I have these scripts that parents can read to their kids or read to themselves to remind themselves that their children are so special. And I was being interviewed by Kathy and Todd Adams, and Todd said that he read one of these to one of his children, and he was in tears, and because it just allows you to appreciate who your kid truly is. And every one of these natures are fluid, of course, but they are all inherently superpower traits. So the one who is, let's read a difficult one, perhaps, like somebody who would be typecast as difficult. Let's read the anxious exploder, right? So I write this little script to look at your kids in a beautiful way. You are like a dry sponge soaking up everything around you. You are sensitive and soft, absorbing everything around you. And it is hard for you to separate your moods from other people's moods. And because of this, you often explode. When you feel nervous, close your eyes and repeat to yourself, I'm safe right now. I am home right now. I'm going to be okay. You are not a bad person for losing your calm. This is what happens to extra sensitive people. As you learn to feel safer in this world, you will become calmer. When I see you explode, I know it is because you feel anxious and unsafe. I will do my best to remind you that you are safe in this moment. Your sensitivity is a superpower if you learn to use it in this way. It is a radar and a GPS that helps you know another person's moods. You will soon learn to use it without letting the information overpower you. When you do, you will be able to use this sensitivity to your own benefit. Was Will a little bit of this kind of?
100%. And he can feel anxious right now in this chapter of his life.
Yeah.
he's finding himself, and he can feel very anxious. Exactly what you're saying. He's aware that he can be challenged. He's like a sponge, and he's so sensitive that he takes on, he knows what other people are feeling and thinking. And, can you imagine having these words to read to him? That will soothe him, hearing those words. And
Right. So the reason why we must treat our children's inherent nature as superpowers is because often culture will tell them to not do that,
yeah,
or to do it so much that it then goes out of control. So we want to teach our children to stand strong in their authentic essence and honor who they are and grow from that soil rather than transplant themselves and grow from somebody else's traits. Be more of you instead of being more of someone else, right? So it starts with the parent acknowledging, honoring, and celebrating who their children are in their essence.
right. So if everybody can just take one moment right now and just call forward something that you are projecting or placing onto your child that you might be having challenge with, but is really potentially a superpower of theirs. Because I think of Will, and I think what a different young man he would be right now, young adult right now, had I not been able to make that shift. And I honor his sensitivity, and it is one of his superpowers. But had I just gone along and not pivoted and not awakened, and you're giving right here like literal scripts, everyone, literal. So if you're having an experience internally right now of recognizing, oh, maybe the thing that I find the most challenging with my child, maybe that's golden inside of them. Maybe I'm looking at my own child through a filter that I could clarify, that I could clear up. And you are giving literal words, the literal words. And when you feel these words, then you can begin to elaborate and recreate and repair relationships from these very, very powerful and astute observations and articulation for them. So,
And you say it to yourself, right? So you're healing yourself as well. So this is the book, guys. Grab a copy, The Parenting Map. I also have a free summit, and people should go to my website, drshefali.com, and sign up for the free summit. Suzi's part of it. She has 2 talks in it. And the summit has over 30 lectures and fantastic advice from amazing people. So Suzi will post the link as well. Go to my website and support the spread of conscious parenting. Grab a copy. Thank you, Suzi, for doing this and spreading it to your audience.
brilliant. We love you, and much love for this world to get to feel this book. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.